Hello, class. Welcome to another lesson of 8th grade Eureka Math. Here we are again with Module 4. This time we're in Lesson 21, talking about something called point-slope form. So you'll need pages 255 through 266 of your math workbooks, plus your note pages and all of your math tools and note-taking tools that we've been using. And like always, let's start with our vocabulary for this lesson. So you can see that you'll see that we have 4 vocabulary terms for lesson 21. Please copy down the definitions, even if you are familiar with them. The more times you copy something, the better you will remember it. But if you do need extra time to copy any of this stuff down, remember that this is a video and you are in control of how fast the video goes. So you can slow down, you can speed up and skip, you can pause it, you can go back and re-watch. So you have the power to control. So if you need to pause the video to write things down, if you want to pause the video to write things down, if you need to go back and re-watch anything, do it. It's your choice. But let's look at these vocabulary terms. 3 of them are right there. The first one is line. Now we've seen lines a lot. This might be the first time we've actually defined a line. A line is a straight figure formed by the connection of 2 points. So it takes 2 points to make a line. So we've seen it before when we've been graphing in Module 4. The way we've been graphing lines is we take 2 points and we connect the points to make a line. And that's how you graph a line. So a line is just something straight formed when 2 points are connected. Now every line also has a slope. The slope is the measure of a line's steepness or slant. And for equations, it is represented by the letter M. So M means slope. So we're talking about slope again today. We're always talking about slope when we talk about lines. And one thing we're focused on today is point-slope form. Point-slope form is another way to write an equation. And we're going to learn how to write an equation today using point and using slope. So it's a method of writing a linear equation using the slope of a line and a point on the line. So we've tried 2 different ways of graphing so far. We used slope-intercept form, where we found the y-intercept, followed the slope rule to make another point, and connected those 2 points. That's one way we used to graph a line. Y-intercept and follow the slope rule. The second way we graphed a line was using both intercepts in standard form. When we had standard form, we did the x-intercept point, the y-intercept point, and we connected those to make a line. Well, this is a third way, which it's similar to slope-intercept form, but point-slope form uses slope and any point. It does not have to be the y-intercept. This is used when the y-intercept is hard to find, or it might be in the middle between intervals. So we used slope-intercept to write equations. We used standard form to write equations with intercepts. Now we're using any point and the slope to write an equation for a line. That's what we're doing today. And so because we are using the slope to write equations, you need to remember the slope formula that we've talked about before. So there's a slope formula down at the bottom of our vocabulary. The slope formula, M slope, is P2 minus R2 divided by P1 minus R1. That's one way to write the slope formula. The other way is using X's and Y's instead of P's and R's. If your points are P and R, that's what these are used for. But this formula is used if we have Y's and X's. So Y of 0.2 minus Y of 0.1 divided by X of 0.2 minus X of 0.1. So the slope formula we worked on before, we are going to use it again today because we are using slope to write equations. So today, let's just write down what we're doing today. Today, we will write equations for graphs. So we're going to write equations today. So not graphing today, but we are writing equations using 1 point, and it could be any point on a line, using 1 point on a line and a slope. So write equations using a point and slope. And this is used when the y-intercept is difficult to determine. So when it's hard to know exactly what the y-intercept is, we use this method that we're going to be doing today. So it's a little bit more complicated than slope-intercept because the intercept is hard to find. So let's look at the methods list, how to use 2 points to write equations. So there are 5 steps. There are 5 steps. If I just give you 2 points, this is how you write an equation using just 2 points. So if I tell you that these 2 points are on a line, you can use those points and only those points to write the equation. What you need to do first is find 2 points on the line. Any 2 points that are on the line. You'll pick probably the easiest ones just because where intervals are, but you should pick 2 points that you know are on the line. So that's step 1, just pick 2 points. Step 2, use the slope formula to find m. And I wrote the slope formula down there again, but step 2 is just use the 2 points in the slope formula. So you can see we have 2 points. I take the pieces and I put them in the slope formula. So I have 2 points. And after the slope formula, I have the slope. I have 2 points. I have the slope. What you do next, step 3, substitute m that you found right here and the coordinates of one of the points. So you take m from number 2 and you take one of these. Does not matter which one. You just take the first point or the second point. Pick your favorite. You take one of the points and m and you put them into the slope-intercept form. So you put the y for the point here, you put the slope for m, and you put the x for x. The only piece that's missing is the b. So you're going to substitute into slope-intercept form so that the b is missing. The b is unknown because you know y and x from step 1, and you know m from step 2. So step 1 gives you y and x. Step 2 gives you m. For step 4, you find b. Step 4, you find b. So you use your properties to find b. So now you have m and you have b. After you use your properties, you found m in step 2. You substituted and used properties in 3 and 4, and now you found b. In step 5, you take m from step 2 and b from step 4, and you put them into slope-intercept form. And that is your equation. So it's 5 steps, but if you look, what we started with 2 points, and we finished with an equation. You started with 2 points and you finished with an equation. The 2 points gave you slope, substituting and properties gave you y-intercept, gave you b, and m and b you know how to put into an equation. So that's what we're doing today. Those are the 5 steps. So write down those 5 steps. If you need to go back and rewatch and copy them down again, do that. But those are the 5 steps. Put the 5 steps on your piece of paper sitting next to you because we're going to use them today on our exercises, on our examples, and on our problem set, and on our exit ticket. So let's start using these a little bit. I'm going to do some examples with you or for you. Starting on page 255 with example 1, we have L being a line on coordinates. What is the linear equation? So it wants me to write an equation for this graph. What linear equation? So I need to write the equation. Well, normally what we've done before is we've started with intercepts. we can use the y-intercept. The problem with this is the y-intercept is in the middle between 2 and 3, so I don't know exactly what it is. So that way, using the y-intercept is not going to work, not right away. So what I need to do is I need to follow the steps we just did. So first, find 2 points. Step 1 was find 2 points. So let's find 2 points that hit exactly on intersections. So there's one right there. That's at 5, 4. And another point I can do over here at -2, 2. So now I have 2 points. Now, so that's step 1, find 2 points. Step 2, use the slope formula to find m. So I'm going to use the slope formula to find m. M is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So what I do is I look here. Let's put this one as 0.2. So I do the y of 2, which is 4, minus the y, which is 2, divided by x, which is 5, the x over here, which is 5, minus this x, which is -2. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus -2 turns into 5 plus 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. So m is 2/7. So the slope is 2/7. That works. Next thing I need to do. So step 1, find 2 points. Step 2, use the 2 points information to find the slope. Step 3, substitute. So I'm going to take y equals mx plus b and substitute. So I need to pick one of these points to use. Now, for some reason, might be just me, but I'm going to pick this point because both the coordinates are positive. And for some reason, I just like seeing the positives more. So this y is 4. M, remember, is 2/7. X is 5. So there we go. We substituted. Y and x are these coordinates. M is a slope I found already. And b is missing. So that's substituting. Step 4, use my properties to find b. So I'm going to use my properties to find b. So I get 4 equals 2/7 times 5 is 10/7 plus b. Well, I need to do minus 10/7 on both sides. So I need to do 4 minus 10/7 equals, well, 10/7 minus 10/7 is 0, and 0 plus b is just b. So to find b, I need to do 4 minus 10/7. So I'm going to say turn 4 into 7ths. And I know my math facts, so 4 is actually going to be 28/7 because 28 divided by 7 is 4. Why did I change it? I changed it to make the subtraction easier because now the denominators match, I can subtract. So 28/7 minus 10/7 is 18/7. So b is 18/7. So I've done 4 of my steps. Step 1, I found 2 points. Step 2, use the slope formula to find m. Step 3, substitute, which is right here. Step 4, use the properties to find b. I found b. Last step, I take m and I take b and I put it into my equation. So I get y equals m 2/7 x plus b, which is 18/7. So I take y equals mx plus b, and I put in m, I put in b. So I get the m I found, the b I found, put them together, and that is my answer right there. All 5 steps. Step 1, find the points. Step 2, find the slope. Step 3, substitute. Step 4, find b. Step 5, put everything together to get your equation. And that is the equation for this line. Let's do it again with example 2. Example 2, let me show it to you again. Let me show this to you again. Okay, so we have this line and we want an equation. We want the equation for this line. But again, the problem is the y-intercept is somewhere between 3 and 4. We don't know it exactly. So we have to use 2 points instead. So let's find 2 points that hit exactly at intersections. There's one right there. There's one right here. So I'm just going, I can label them A and I can label it B. So let's say point A, what are the coordinates of A? A is -1 on the X and 4 on the Y. B is 4 on the X and 1 on the Y. Those are the coordinates for A and B. So that's step 1, find the coordinates. Step 2, find the slope. So I use my slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Where do these numbers come from? They come from our coordinates. So I'm going to say B is number 2. Well, let me think about it. Which one do I want to be number 2 and which one do I want to be number 1? I'm going to put A as number 2. This is going to be number 2. So this is going to be x2 and y2, x1, y1. I think that might be easier for the math. Let's do it. So y2 is 4, y1 is 1 over here, x2 is -1, x1 is -4. 4 minus 1 is 3, -1 minus 4 is -5, and so m equals -3/5. Because the one negative changes the whole thing to negative. So it's m is -3/5. Great. So now that's step 2. I found step 1, I got my points. Step 2, using slope formula, find slope. Step 3, substitute into y equals mx plus b. So I think I'm going to use, well, again, I like positives. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take B. I'm going to use B for X and Y. And M is right here. So substitute the Y is going to be -1. M is going to be -3/5. X is going to be 4. And B is what I'm looking for. So step 1, points. Step 2, slope. Step 3, substitute. Step 4, use the properties to find B. So let's use the properties to find B. First, let's multiply -3/5 times 4 is -12/5 plus B. Now I need to add 12/5 to both sides because -12/5 plus 12/5 is 0. 0 plus B is just B. So I do 1 plus 12/5 equals B because I want to find B. 1, the denominators do not match, so let me change 1 into 5/5 because that's the same thing. I just write it differently because now the denominators match. I get 1, which is the same as 5/5 plus 12/5 equals B. 5/5 plus 12/5 is 17/5. So now I have B. So step 1, get my points. Step 2, get the slope. Step 3, substitute. Step 4, find B. Now I have M and B. So I can use step 5 to put everything together into my equation because I have M and I have B. I have M, I have B. So now I can say y equals negative 3/5 x plus 17/5, because that was M and that was B, and that is my equation for this line. Those are the 5 steps. Get your points. Use the points to find the slope. Step 3, use the slope and a point to substitute. Step 4, properties, find B. Step 5, take M, take B, and write your equation. Going pretty good so far. I hope you're following along. You should have, I have them next to me. You should have the 5 steps written down sitting next to you. If you do not get them written down, go back and rewatch the part of the notes where we wrote them down. But let me show you again, because the best way to learn is to see it many, many times. So I have 2 more examples to show you. Example 3. On page 256, we have another line on a coordinate plane. Here's this line, and you can see we are far away from the y-intercept. We start at 9, 10, 11, 12. The y-intercept is far away, so we cannot use the y-intercept to do this. We're going to have to use our 2 points. So let's find 2 points. Here's a good one for A, and here's a good one for B, because those are at intersections. A coordinates look like they're at 12 and 2, 12x and 2y. B coordinates look like they're at 13 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 13 and 7. So I found my 2 points. Step 2. Use the slope formula to find the slope. Just had to figure out which one's going to be 2, which one's going to be 1. Well, I'm going to put the B is going to be 2. So this is going to be x2, y2, x1, y1. It really does not matter which order you do it in. I just try to figure out what math is going to be easier, and I saw that the B's were bigger. So I'm going to do the B's first to make the subtraction easier. But again, it does not matter which ones are 1s and which ones are 2s. You'll get the same slope whichever way you do it. y2 is 7, y1 is 2, x2 is 13, x1 is 12. 7 minus 2 is 5, 13 minus 12 is 1. So the slope is 5. So step 1, got my points. Step 2, found my slope is 5. Step 3, I need to work on finding my y-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to take one of these. I think I'm going to take A this time. I'm going to take the A. And so I'm going to use A for my point in point slope. So A's y is 2. So 2. The slope is 5. X will be 12 because that's the point I'm using, plus B. So I substituted. So points, slope, substitute, and now find B. So 5 times 12 is 60 plus B. I need to do minus 60 on both sides. I do 2 minus 60 equals, well, 60 minus 60 is 0, so I just keep the B. 2 minus 60 is negative 58. So B is negative 58. So there we go. Now I got my points. I got my slope. I got B. Now I'm ready to put everything together into my equation form. This is what your equation will look like. Y stays Y. M is 5. X is X. And B is negative 58. And that is the equation for that line. So you can see how we do not need to know the y-intercept to write an equation. Even if the y-intercept is, like the y-intercept this time was negative 58. how big would our graph have to be for us to see that? To see that y-intercept, we'd have to have a huge graph. So you don't always need a graph to write an equation. You can just use the 2 points. Just use the 2 points. Let me show you one more time, because I think we're getting this, but one more time won't hurt us. If you think you are an expert at this already, you can skip ahead and work on the exercises. But let me do one more example. Here we go, example 4. Again, I need this line. This is my linear, this is my line. I need to find the equation for this line. Now, this actually might not be too tricky because the y-intercept looks like it's 0. But so you can actually probably just use this with, like, right now. We can do it the easy way where we just say, okay, b equals 0, 0. So b is 0. M is up divided by right. So this one we're going up. Here's another point. Up and right. So we go up 1, right 3. So m is 1/3. So you can write the equation and just say y equals mx plus b. So we get y equals the slope, which is up 1, right 3, 1/3 x. And it's 0 plus 0. So I'm just going to leave it blank. And that's the equation. You notice I did not do all 5 steps for example 4 because I did not have to. The y-intercept was easy to find this time. Because the y-intercept was easy to find, I did not have to do all the extra work. So maybe you wanted to do all 5 steps from this lesson, but you don't always have to. Look at the graph. Use your knowledge, use your wisdom, use your expertise, and make a decision about the best way to write the equation. You do not have to do all the work if you do not have to. Just this went really fast because the y-intercept was easy to find. The slope was easy to find. I did not have to use the slope formula. And so it was easy to make the graph for this equation. So example 4 is just showing you, you know what? Do what works. Do what works. You don't have to always kill yourself to make it work. Do what works logically. So in your work today, there will be some, I guarantee it, where you'll have to do all 5 steps. You will have to do all 5 steps on some of the questions today. But if there are some where you don't have to use all 5 steps, if you know how to do it from another lesson in Module 4, use the knowledge you have and do it the way you know how to do it. But let's work. Let's look at the next page, 257, because this is where you get to work. I believe there are 5 exercises on page 257 and 258. What I would like you to do right now is look at page 257, 258, and pause the video and do the 5 exercises. There are 5 exercises. Remember, first, pick 2 points. Step 2, find slope. Step 3 and 4, substitute and properties to find b. And then step 5, use slope and b to write your equation. Look at the list of steps next to you. Pause the video, do the 5 exercises. Unpause the video when you are ready to check your work with me. Okay, so here we are back in. Hopefully you paused the video. Hopefully you did exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you're ready to check your work. Let me solve them for you, and you can see how you did. So, exercise 1, write the equation. So step 1, you should have found 2 points. So I'm going to find 2 points that are pretty easy to work with, that happen exactly intersections. I see a point there, and I see a point there. I'm going to label them A and B. You might have picked different points. For example, you could have picked right here. You could have picked right here. You have 4 choices on this graph. I'm going to pick A and B because that's just what I saw first. But what you should know is that it does not matter which points you picked. You get the same equation no matter what. So even if you picked different points, your equation will be the same as mine. Now, the coordinates of A are 2 and -2. The coordinates for B are 5 and -1. Excuse me. So those are my coordinates. Now I need to use my coordinates. Let's say this is x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to use the slope formula to find the slope. So I get -1 minus -2, because I take y2 minus y1, divided by x2 minus x1, divided by 5 minus 3. -1 minus -2 turns into -1 plus 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. -1 plus 2 is actually +1. So the slope is 1/2. The slope is 1/2. Okay, step 3. I need to pick a point to substitute. I'm going to pick point A for step 3. So I take y equals mx plus b. I'm going to take x and y from A, and I'm going to take the m from step 2. So the y is going to be -2. -2 equals m is 1/2. X is 2 plus b, which I do not know. So I substituted. That's step 3. Step 4, time to find b. So let's use our properties. 1/2 of 2 is just 1 plus b. I need to do -1 on both sides to get b by itself, because 1 minus 1 is 0. -2 minus 1 is -3 equals b. So b is -3. So what we have now, we can take the m we know and the b we know. You know what? I messed up. Okay. This just shows you that if you're not paying attention, you can really mess things up. And so I was working a little bit too fast. I messed it up. So even though I messed it up and it was absolutely a mistake, this is something that you should see so that you know that anybody can mess up. I just messed up. I messed up a lot. And because I already wrote it in pen on my paper, I can't really erase anything. So I'm just going to have to fess up to it instead of editing out my mistake. I'm going to use this as a learning opportunity for you and just show you that I messed up. Now, some of you probably noticed already and said, Mr. Bailey, you're messing up. And you're sitting there screaming at your screen, but I'm not there to hear you. So you should have screamed louder so that I could hear you all the way where I am. So let's see what I did wrong here. If you notice, my mistake, what I did wrong, happened all the way back here. I did 5 minus 3. It's not 5 minus 3. Because if you look, and I don't know how I missed it, but I was supposed to do x2 minus x1. x2 is 5. x1 is 2. So this should have been 5 minus 2. That was a huge, that made everything, that messed up everything after. So this just shows you that anybody can mess up. But the important thing about when we make a mistake is we go back and fix it. So it's 5 minus 2, which is actually 3. So the slope is not 1/2, the slope is 1/3. But that also changes everything over here, because right now I have 1/3 times 2, which changes things. So I'm actually going to I'm going to cross out all of that because that was a huge mistake. This is also another reason why it's important that when you're doing math, you use pencil. Using pencil when you do math is also a good skill because you can erase pencil. I can't really erase this pen. But the good thing is I did notice this in time before I absolutely lied to you and gave you the wrong answer. So let me find out what B really is. Everything's right now. I have my points. I found my real slope. I substituted. I just need to start over again with step 4. So now I have -2 equals 1/3 times 2, which is 2/3, plus b. I need to do -2/3 on both sides. 2/3 minus 2/3 is 0, so I just get b. Now I need to make sure my denominators match. So I need my 2 to have a 3 denominator. So that's going to be -6/3. Because -6 divided by 3 is -2. Now, -6/3 minus -2/3 is -8/3 equals b. That looks right. That is the real b. Somebody should have told me earlier so I don't look like a fool and make a mistake over here. But it's fixed now. That is the slope. That is the b. Now I'm ready. I just took up a little bit more ink than I wanted to. Y equals mx plus b. Y is y. M is 1/3. X is x. And b is -8/3. And that is the equation for the line. So if you did everything right, this is your answer. If you made a mistake, like I did, I made a mistake. It happens. If you made a mistake, then you do what I did also, and you fix your mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is perfect. The best thing we can do after we see a mistake, we go back and change it and fix it. But hopefully you did it. Hopefully you did a better job than me on that one, and you got it right the first time. Let's check your work for number 2, exercise 2. Write an equation for this line. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find our points. So I'm going to find a point for A and a point for B. Let's find an intersection. There's an intersection. Let me see if I can, oh, here's another one right here. If you wanted, you can also pick this one, but I'm going to pick these. I'm going to say A and I'm going to say B. You get the same answer no matter what you pick. Those are just the first 2 ones I saw. A is -3 on the x and 7 on the y. B is 2 on the x-axis and 8 on the y-axis. So I have my points. Step 2, use the slope formula to find the slope. Let's do this. B can be 2 and A can be 1. So label those y. So I get 8 minus 7 divided by 2 minus -3. That'll work. 8 minus 7 is 1. 2 minus -3 changes to 2 plus 3. So the slope is 1/5. That's a slope. And I'm pretty sure I did it right this time. Pretty sure I did it right. For now, I substitute. I take y equals mx plus b, like you should have. This is step 3, by the way. Which one do I want to use? Let's use b because they're both positive. Y for b is 8, so my y is going to be 8. My m is going to be 1/5. My x is going to be 2. And b is what I'm looking for. And in step 4, I'm going to use my properties to find b. So I get 8 equals 1/5 times 2 is 2/5 plus b. I need to do minus 2/5 to both sides to get b by itself. I need to change 8 into a fraction with a 5 in the denominator to make the subtracting fractions easier. 8 is 40/5 because 40 divided by 5 makes 8. So 40/5 is the same thing, but it's the same thing, but now the subtraction is easier because 40/5 minus 2/5 is 38/5. So B is 38/5, or 7 3/5 if you want to do a mixed number. So that's step 1 was finding my points. Step 2 was finding my slope. Step 3 was substituting. Step 4 was finding the b. Now step 5, I take y equals mx plus b, and I have m, I have b, so I can write my equation. I get y equals 1/5 x plus 38/5. And that is the equation for this graph. That is the equation for that graph. Worked out really well that time. I don't think I made any mistakes. Hopefully you got the same answer I did. If you did not get the same answer, go back and fix it. But let's keep checking your work on page 258. Number 3, 4, and 5 are on page 258. Number 3, they don't even give you a graph. They just give you 2 points. You can't even see it. So some of you might be saying, Mr. Brother, why do I need to use the slope formula? Can't I just look and do the up and right and find the slope? Sometimes, yes, but this time, no. This time you actually have to use the slope formula because you cannot look at the graph. But you can still write the equation. Even if you cannot see the graph, you can still find the equation. In fact, they did step 1 for you. This is step 1. They chose 2 points. Find 2 points. They did it for you. So we can skip straight to step 2. Step 2, use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 to find the slope. We just need to pick what we want it to be. Let's just, I don't care. Let's do y2, x2, x1, y1. It really does not matter which order you pick it in, as long as you go in the same, as long as you stay consistent, stay the same. So I just did, these will be number 2 and these will be 1s. If you switched it, no problem. y2 is 5, y1 is 3, x2 is -4, x1 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. -4 minus 2 is -6. That is -2/6, which simplifies to -1/3. So the slope is -1/3. Slope is -1/3. So that's the slope. Next thing we need to do is substitute. Step 3. We need to work to substitute into y equals mx plus b to find the b. So which one are we going to use? Are we going to use, I'm going to pick both the positives to use. I'm going to pick this for step 3. So the y is 3, m is -1/3, x is 2, so times 2 plus b. There we go. We substituted. Now I need to do, this is going to be step 4 right here. Step 4 is solving for b. I get 3 equals -2/3 plus b. Now this time I need to add 2/3 to both sides to get the b by itself, because this is -2/3. So -2/3 plus 2/3 is 0. Yeah, it gives me b, but the addition property of equality tells me I do the same to both sides. 3, I need to change to thirds because I'm adding 2/3. I need to keep it the same denominator. Well, 3 is the same as 9/3 because 9 divided by 3 makes 3. 9/3 plus 2/3 is 11/3, so b is 11/3. Now I'm ready for step 5 because I have m, I have b. Step 5, I take y equals mx plus b. I use m and b. I get y equals -1/3 x plus 11/3. And that is the equation for the line that we can't even see. But so this is a great question because it shows you how you can write an equation and you don't even need a graph. You just need 2 points, and you're good. But for number 4, so hopefully you got the same equation as I did when you did your work. But for number 4, they gave you a graph again. They gave you another graph, so this time you have to pick your own points, like a sucker. So let's pick some points. Let's do number 4. Let's check your work. You probably already did this. So let's check your work. So let's start step 1. Find a couple points. There we go. Let's do A and let's do B. A looks like -7 on the X and 2 on the Y. B is -6 on the X and -2 on the Y. Step 2, find slope using the slope formula. Let's pick what I want to do. Let's just do, it doesn't matter. So let's just do x1, y1, x2, y2. It really does not matter. You get the same slope, whichever one you pick, 1 or 2. But y2 is -2, y1 is 2, x2 is -6, x1 is -7. -2 minus 2 is -4. -6 minus -7 turns into -6 plus 7. So this one is -4 over 1. So the slope is just -4. -4 over 1 turns into -4. So we have the slope. Step 3, let's substitute. We get y equals mx plus b. And which point am I going to use for this point slope thing? It does not matter. I'm just going to pick point A right there. Let's do it. The y is a 2. The m was -4. The x is -7. And there's b. Step 4, let's find b. Let's find the b. -4 times -7 is +28 plus b. I need to do -28 on both sides because 28 minus 28 is 0. That gives me b by itself. 2 minus 28 is -26. So b is -26. That works because now I have m and I have b. I can take y equals mx plus b. Step 5, y equals m -4x. And b is -26, and that is the equation you should have got for the line. If you got that equation, you are doing all 5 steps perfectly. Very well done. If you did not get that equation, you should go back and see how your work looks different from mine. See maybe what mistake you made. I'm guessing somewhere with the negative numbers. The negative numbers can be tricky if you have not had a lot of practice with them. But we have one more exercise to check that you did to see if you did it right. I'm talking about exercise 5 all the way at the bottom of the page. Now exercise 5, you'll see no graph, and they only gave you 1 point. But they gave you a point for step 1 and for step 3. We can use that point instead of step 1 and step 3. And they even did step 2 for you. They did the slope. So they did step 1 and step 2. So we know m equals 4. And we know x comma y equals 8 comma 3. Super convenient for us to know this stuff. Let me show you why. Because now all we need to do is we take y equals mx plus b, and we know m, and we know x and y. We can find b. Y is 3, m is 4, x is 8, b is what we're looking for. So we don't have to use the slope formula. They did it for us. and we only need 1 point to substitute. So we get 3 equals 4 times 8 is 32 plus b. We do minus 32 on both sides to get b by itself. So we find out that b is negative 29. That's all the information we need because we have m, we have b. We just do y equals mx plus b. We get y equals 4x minus 29. That is the equation. We don't even need a graph. We need a point and we need slope. That's why it's called point slope. We need point and we need slope. Because we use the point, we use the slope to find b, and then we write the equation. That's what you're doing today. You're using a slope and you're using a point to find b. And after you find b, you can write your equation. So use points, use slope, find b, write equation. Use point, use slope, find b, write equation. Use point, use slope, find b, write equation. I can even write that down. Use point, use slope, find b, write equation. Write it down if you need to. Write it down. Because that's the end of the exercise. Hopefully you got all those. Hopefully you know what you're doing and you're ready to move on. Next page is 259, which is the lesson summary. We can move past that. Next page, 261. Exit ticket. Slide that to the back. It's the last thing we do. If you need more examples and more help, use the homework helper on page 263 and 264. They give you more examples. They give you answers. They give you thought bubbles. But your problem set, what you're going to work on independently now, it starts on page 265. And the same thing as before, write the equation. Write the equation using the 5 steps. Use the 5 steps, please, that we talked about. You're going to do that for number 1 and 2 on 265. You're going to do the same thing for number 3, write the equation. Number 4, they're going to actually have you do it 3 times because there's 3 lines. Write an equations for the lines, all 3 lines. So you're going to do line AB, line AC, line BC. And then you're going to write more equations for 5, 6, 7, and 8. Write the equation, write the equation, determine the equation, and they just give you points and they give you slope. But for the last one, they give you just 2 points. We practiced all of this. You can do this. Just find the 5 steps. Use the 5 steps. Although for number 5, 6, 7, and 8, they did some of the steps for you. So those might actually be simpler for you because they did some of the steps for you. Remember, my answers to the problem set are online. So you can look at my answers. You can check your work with mine, see how you're doing. And also remember, ask me for questions whenever you want. After you check your work on the problem set and you feel confident, the exit ticket is waiting for you. The one that we skipped back to page 261. There are 2 questions on the exit ticket. The first one, you're going to write an equation for the line you see. Number 2, you're going to write an equation for the line you do not see, but has a point and has a slope. You can do it. You use the 5 steps, except when they do some of the 5 steps for you. I believe in you. Do your best. When you're done, take a picture of this page, turn it in so I can see that you have mastered the point slope form of finding equations. But good luck, work hard, and I'll see you next time. Have fun.